Okay, students, let's review the difference between discrete and continuous. So in mathematics, discrete is something, that we count. It is when we count things. They are separate things. For example, let's count these triangles. 1, 2. The second day has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 triangles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 triangles. This would be something that is discrete because we counted the triangles. We could count the stars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 stars. We can count the flowers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 flowers. There's not half of a flower, it's a complete flower. Here are some things that we can count. You can count people. You can count students. You can count pencils. You can count items. You count flowers. You count cars. You even count your money. That's a little tricky because there could be decimals. You could have half of a dollar. Okay. When we make the graph, we use points. We do not connect the dots. We leave the dots separate. Here are parking spots. Each hour, there's parking spots, 40 parking spots, 32 parking spots. At hour 2, there was 24 parking spots. I am not going to connect these. I'm going to leave them as points. These are things that are called discrete. This is the number of children. Number of children, 30 children. Then there was 90 children. Then there was 270 children. I am not going to connect them because they are discrete. Now let's go talk about continuous. Continuous, the graph is going to look like that, is when we measure things. They are connected together. Okay, we measure the water. The water keeps flowing and pouring in. We measure her hair. Her hair grows a little bit each day, longer, longer, longer. Okay, we measure the temperature. The temperature slowly rises. Okay, it's not dots, it's all connected. We can measure the height of the tree, and the tree's going to keep growing, 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 connected. We can measure the distance in kilometers that the car travels. It never stops. It's all connected there. Here is something that I show you in class sometimes. When you measure something, okay, it's all connected. This is a measuring tape, okay, and it's totally connected. It does not have any holes. You are going to call it continuous when you see units of measure. You can have kilograms. You can measure milliliters, meters. You can measure in inches, centimeters, or gallons. You could do miles, liters, and then degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius. Okay, that's for temperature. So what are things that we measure? Lots of things. For example, water, okay, any liquid. It could be oil or gas. We measure temperature. We measure height, length, volume, distance. These are all things that we measure, okay, and so we are going to connect the points. For example, each day there's liters of milk. This is something that we measure. So you are going to connect the dots. You are going to draw the curve through the points. We connect them because it is continuous. Continuous means never stops. It never stops. If we look at this water right here, it never stops. It just keeps pouring, pouring. The hair just keeps growing longer, longer, longer. Unless she cuts it, but it's all connected. Same thing here with gallons of gas. This is like water. This is a liquid. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and connect the dots on the graph. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of examples here. There are 56 people. These are people in line for a roller coaster. People, do we measure them or count them? We count people, so we call it discrete. There are 400 gallons of water. Okay, water, gallons, that's something that we measure. Since we measure it, we're going to call it continuous. Okay, we would go ahead and connect the graph. This graph we would leave dots. Okay, there are 5 weeds in the garden. A weed is like a flower. We count them. Since we count them, we call it discrete. The graph would be dots. We would not connect the weeds. The temperature at noon is 76, and the temperature goes down. Okay, this is something that we measure. Since we measure it, we're going to call it continuous. We would connect the graph, connect it together. This doesn't have a story. I don't know what this is about, but I noticed that it's all connected. Since the graph is connected, we call it continuous. This graph also doesn't have a story, but I'm looking at the graph and it is just points. Since it is just points, it must be discrete. This must be something they counted. This table is talking about the height in meters. The height, that is definitely a measurement. Since it is something we measure, we're going to call it continuous. Now this graph even wants me to do some interpreting. Interpret means you have to make a sentence about the slope. So what's happening here to the meters? They're getting 5 more. Plus 5 is being added. Here, this is plus 1. So the slope would be 5 over 1, and I have to use the words. For 5, it was meters. And for the 1, that comes from the hours. So there are 5 more meters. Oops. And you could say of height every 1 hour. You could also say there are 5 more meters of height. The height increases by 5 meters. Okay, let's go take a look at the students. Now these are students. Since we count the students, we are calling this discrete. They want us to interpret the y-intercept point. Remember, a y-intercept has to have a 0. So this is the point they want me to explain. The 0 goes with days, so I'm going to say on day 0. There were 5 students. There were 5 students. Were there 5 students every day? No, we don't say every. We just say, on this day, there were 5. How many students were there on day 6? There were 20 students. That's how you interpret a point. Okay, and for this last one right here, this is talking about gallons of water. We definitely measure water, so it's continuous. The graph would be connected together. Let's interpret this point right here. 15 goes with weeks. So on week 15, there was 20 gallons of water. There was 20 gallons of water. Okay, we usually say there was or there were. We do not say every because we're just doing this one point. Okay, so remember, if it is something that we count, counting separate things, it's called discrete, and your graph is going to be points or dots. If it is something that we measure, continuous is measure, and it's connected together. You're going to see those units, and your graph needs to be connected. Thank you, students.